Hey there friends, have you guys subscribed to the new type of math being put out by the federal government in that 1 + 1 equals 8,659? I didn't think you had, because if you're watching this video, you don't believe the BS that the government is feeding you. I've compiled a couple of the latest BS things that simply do not add up. First of all, Trump gunman flew a drone over Pennsylvania rally venue before shooting, law enforcement sources say. This has been confirmed. Now, this video is not obviously from the killer. This is from obviously after the shooting took place. You can see all the fairgrounds stuff still in place from before the shooting. The point here is that drone flights are already policed by the FAA, right? On top of that, this was a secure site. This was an identified site. Some say has actually changed plans at the last minute, which is really suspect that they relocated it to this location at the very last minute. But the point, again, is that a drone was allowed to fly overhead over this site that had already been tagged as a site where Trump was going to come. In other words, security had already visited it, mapped it all out and everything.
Just days away at this point, we saw what appears to be an advance team for the rally, and judging from their license plates, possibly Secret Service members scoping this likely location. We say likely because even the exact spot of the stage isn't made public.
Then this kid flies this drone overhead. In fact, they're saying that not only was it days before, but they think that it was hours before Trump took the stage that they actually flew this drone. I say they because I don't know who flew the drone that they're saying Crooks did. Now, to add to the absurdity, on a Twitter post or an X post where they reported that the gunman flew a drone overhead this site, Donald Trump Jr. just reported, just to underscore how crazy this all is, I was once prevented flying my own drone off the beach at Mar-a-Lago by United States Secret Service because my father was inside the house. Now we have one literally scouting his speech. Sounds awful suspect to me. I mean, that wouldn't draw any red flags, right? Secret Service has been to the site, gone to the site, supposedly secured the site, looked it over, mapped the site out, decided this is where we're going to do everything. This is where we're going to put placement of counter snipers. This is where we're going to have the stage set up. This is how we're going to provide safety here. And brrr, some guy's flying a drone overhead a day or two before and the day of the event. That doesn't make sense to me. Why was this guy allowed to do that? Because he was allowed to do that. To add to that, there's conflicting reports that Crooks was actually on the shooting team at his local school. Trump gunman's high school says it has no record of him trying out for the rifle team, whenever other people have come out and said he was in fact either trying out or on the team. And speaking of on the team, this is kind of disturbing. Mr. Webb here, who provides this video clip, at the gun club where Crooks shot and was a member of, confirmed member of, DHS also trained there.
George Webb here at Clairton Sportsman's Park. This is, of course, the place here where our member is Crooks. Crooks is our member here, and I think you're also going to see Uric is a member here as well. And again, the reason why you come to a place like this, if you're going to try to entrap some Republican kid and you're going to try to make a shooter out of him and you want him to be shooting at a distance at 140 yards, being at the club over in Allegheny Club, which is 100 yards inside, is not going to do it. Being at a large facility like this, where you have an 1,800 acre campus and you have the deer hunter being shot here, so you can shoot animals and so forth, moving animals through foliage, through realistic conditions that he's later going to have back over at the fairgrounds. You've got to be coming to a place like Clairton Sportsman's Club. And the important thing about this is where the Department of Homeland Security trains. This is where the Department of Homeland Security trains. This is where ICE trains. This is where every DHS live exercise has been since 9/11. I say before then. And the scenario is written by Michael Chertoff and also Mayorkas when he was at DHS. Tom Ridge was more of a figurehead as the first head of DHS, but those exercises were here. And the exercise called The exercise in general here is the John F. Kennedy situation. Multiple shooters, political figure. So rally shooter is the name that I've been told, but it might not be rally shooter. It might be Dealey Plaza. It might be JFK. But the idea of a presidential political figure being shot from multiple places in triangulation is not new. It goes back to Dealey Plaza. So the fact that they would do that exercise here since 1963, the fact that they would do that exercise here and plan that exercise and prevent and do counter sniping here at the Clairton facility is no surprise to anyone. Now, the key thing here is we know that 10 of these police that trained here also jumped from the Jill Biden motorcade, Jill Biden motorcade. Sorry, there's a lot of traffic here on this road. And then they went to the Trump motorcade. So it's a team. There's a 10-person team that has gone into and been inserted into Trump's motorcade from the Clairton Sportsman's Club. And they have been training with DHS. So that this is, if there was an insertion of a team to do an exercise at the Trump shooting, it most certainly would have been those 10 motorcycle cops. It most certainly would have been the Clairton Sportsman's Park, where we know Crooks was a shooter.
Got you scratching your head yet? Let me get you to pull most of the hair out of your head now. Do any of you out there have an encrypted offshore account? Do any of you have an encrypted overseas account? In any way, in any form, whether it be an email account, or what do most people have that's encrypted and overseas or offshore? A money account, right? A bank account. Some way to receive or even send out funding. Crooks had 3.
Oh, by the way, some other things are coming out, like the shooter had 3 encrypted accounts overseas. At the same time, we're having an Iranian plot. So, I mean, I think this is going to go much broader, much deeper, but the agents are going to hold her to accounts. Their lives on the line, and she was not giving the resources they were requesting. But one other thing, Jesse, that Pittsburgh field office was the one responsible for the advance. That was clearly not done appropriately and distracted by Dr. Jill.
And the Pittsburgh field office was also responsible for covering up that bribery Ukraine tip that came in as well. Are you saying that you're getting information that says there's encrypted communications between Crooks and foreign sources?
No, what we know, and this was on the briefing we just received, he had 3 encrypted overseas accounts the FBI is trying to get into.
What do you mean by overseas accounts?
Well, we know that they were based in servers overseas, and so you've got to work over there with the FBI liaisons overseas to start getting into them through their authorities.
Do you believe this attempt on the former president's life has some sort of foreign nexus?
Well, we know the Iranians have been trying for years.
And finally, I want to leave you guys with a question that's been banging around inside my head for a while. First of all, the number one question that I have, besides what I'm about to share with you here, is where's the spent brass? Where's the shell casings of the guns, right? If they're claiming all 8 or 9 shots that we heard and we've reported, and I think we've debunked and we've shown in my previous videos from yesterday and the day before, that there's at least 2, possibly 3 shooters besides the counter sniper, right, to include Crooks. Where's the brass? If you want to know, they keep saying 8 or 9 shots were fired. Easy. If that's your shooter, you go up on the building. This is metal that has little openings probably 12 inches apart. When that round is falling down a 4-degree slope, it likely hit a corner and then turned and stopped rolling. So every single piece of brass should be on that roof. If one were able to roll 20 feet down that 4-degree slope, it would be at the bottom of the drip edge on the ground down below. Again, you secured the site, right? Immediately secured it. So no one should have walked off with that brass. You should have every single piece of spent brass, but not one report of it and not one picture of it. But here's the other question that I've been meaning to ask, and it has slipped me every single time because no one's really talking about this. I want to leave you with this question in your mind, and I want you to be thinking about this. Think of the possibility of how this actually happened, and I want you to be thinking in the back of your mind whenever I share this with you that this guy was already shooting at a club with Department of Homeland Security. Keep that in the back of your mind, right? Trump rally shooter identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20-year-old Pennsylvania man. Here's what we know so far. Down below that, incredibly intelligent, no criminal record. Who was Thomas Crooks who shot Trump? The registered Republican was found to have a clean background. Now, those two boxes right there, no criminal record, found to have a clean background. Even if you've ever been arrested, no one has your DNA. They may have fingerprints, but they do not have your DNA. If you get arrested and thrown in jail for a minor misdemeanor crime, or say a DUI, something like that, if you get put in jail, the most they have on you as far as a record would be fingerprints. They don't pull your DNA when you go to jail. This report at the very bottom says federal investigators said the gunman was not carrying identification, so they analyzed his DNA to provide a biometric confirmation of his identity. Really? Okay, I know where they got the DNA to check it. They got it from his head, right? His head was split open. What did they cross-reference that with? What database was his DNA in already where they could analyze it and provide a biometric confirmation? If someone didn't already have his DNA prior to the day of the shooting, whenever he shared plenty of DNA with everybody, then what did they have that to compare against? Nobody has my DNA. Does anybody have yours? Remember I said think about him shooting at the gun range with DHS? Do you think maybe so that they don't have to reveal the fact that they may have already known who Crooks was, that they made this lie up about being able to cross-reference DNA in order to identify him? Do you think that's what? Because I'm pretty sure, it certainly hasn't come out yet in the Senate hearing where they spoke to the Secret Service head, but tomorrow, Monday morning, they're actually going to be talking to everybody, I guess, at Secret Service to run all this down. I sure wish this question would make its way there, because I believe that's going to answer a lot of questions whenever they are actually shown that there was no way they compared DNA to what they found that day, because they didn't have DNA in a database. And if they did have DNA in a database, why, if he had a clean record already?
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.